All right. Hello, welcome everybody. We're going to give this a few minutes to kick off here.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So today we're going to chat a little bit about Vital, do some Q&A for those that are interested. We figured we'd go through the program and spend some time for some Q&A. So my name is Kyle Buller. I'm one of the co-founders here at Psychedelics Today and Vital. A quick little background about me. I have an undergrad in transpersonal psychology, have some training through Dream Shadow transpersonal breathwork. Also have a master's in clinical mental health counseling, somatic psychology, and I guess I'll save a little bit more about PT and Vital as we get into this. And I'm also joined here by Vital's program coordinator, Johanna Hille. So Johanna, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone who happened to be watching. It's a bit of a strange format since we can't see you and it feels like it's just me and Kyle here, but good to have you here in spirit regardless. So I also have a background in psychology, and for my master's I did religious studies, and ever since I was in my early 20s, I've been really interested in these questions around consciousness and altered states and dreaming and everything that expands our horizons in meaningful ways. And it's been a true pleasure to work with Kyle for over 5 years now. We've been collaborating. I started working with PT when I launched my course on Jungian psychology and psychedelics. And then 3 years ago, is it now, that we started Vital? Yeah, I think it's actually
2022, April.
Yeah. So it's our 3-year Vital anniversary actually this month. And it's been a tremendous honor to be part of creating psychedelic education. And it's really become a passion and a vocation to find ways in which we can better improve our understanding of what these substances do to us and how we can honor them and work with them in best possible way. So yeah, I'll let Kyle get on with his presentation, but I would love to hear your comments and see what you guys are interested in, and if there's anything that we can help you with here. So don't be shy, just send a comment over.
Awesome. Thank you, Johanna. All right. So yeah, today we want to chat about Vital, our certificate in integrative psychedelic studies. So this is a 12-month program and really in the elements of integrative psychedelic harm reduction, ethics, and integration. So a little bit about us. Some of you may know about PT. Some of you may not know about Psychedelics Today, but Psychedelics Today was started, me and the other co-founder, Joe Moore. We got started in 2016. I think the idea started like late 2015-ish, around the fall, and then finally got things going in 2016. We were introduced through our breathwork teachers, Lenny and Elizabeth Gibson at Dream Shadow Breathwork. And we really just wanted to create a platform for conversations around psychedelics, transpersonal psychology, breathwork, and all that super interesting stuff. So yeah, going on 9 years, it's been kind of a wild journey. And we started doing online education in 2017 with a course called Navigating Psychedelics, Lessons on Self-Care and Integration. And things started to really grow from that. And we've always wanted kind of a longer, in-depth program, and that's where Vital started to get birthed out of. We had students that wanted to chat about, a more in-depth program, and so yeah, we ended up launching Vital in April 2022, and yeah, we are going on our 5th cohort. So yeah, it's been a really awesome ride, and just thankful for all the students that were part of it, the whole team to be part of it, especially to Johanna, who's been just an integral part of this program. So yeah, just a big shout out to everybody that's been involved. So In November 2023, we ended up doing a report called the Emerging Psychedelic Workforce. And this was data from 130 vital students and alumni to really kind of survey them about themselves, goals, motivations, and stuff like that. You can check that out at psychedelicstay.com. We also just released a new report. I think it's just actually called the Psychedelic Workforce instead of the Emerging Workforce. And that's a more updated report that surveys the whole scene. So we have folks that are outside of Vital. But for this presentation, we wanted to focus on the first cohort of Vital and what some of their expectations were, and really kind of understanding why they wanted to sign up for the program and get involved. So a little bit of data here. So from that report, 81% said that they plan to work or are working with unspecific marginalized groups. And I think that really comes back to this topic of accessibility. I think that's a huge topic for psychedelics, and always trying to think about how to make this work more accessible for folks. And just really glad to know that a lot of people are out there wanting to make this more accessible for folks. And then around 50% were interested in working areas beyond facilitation and therapy. So that included media, academia, biotech, finance, and et cetera. And I find that to be interesting, that over half the people that joined the Vital program weren't so specifically interested in facilitation or the therapy aspect, but wanted an education as a starting point to maybe enter into other fields of work. And, I think if you asked me, even 5-7 years ago, my response was always to, get a PhD, a psychology degree, a research degree, because those were really some of the only avenues to start getting involved. But as the psychedelic industry is starting to grow and there's more companies, right, we need all sorts of psychedelically literate folks out there. And as a business owner in the psychedelic space, I always think about folks that have psychedelic literacy, that are copywriters, that are graphic designers, that, even it's really nice to have some accountants that understand that, lawyers that really understand the field. So things are starting to really grow just outside of that facilitation focus point of psychedelics, but lots of other ways to get involved. And I just always find that's interesting that half the students were interested in areas outside of facilitation and therapy. 47% of the students said they're not switching careers as they intend to incorporate psychedelics into their current career for the first time. So again, really kind of highlighting as this field starts to grow, there's going to be a need for all sorts of people with all sorts of different skills. And so when people ask me, how do I get involved? I really think about, what is that skill that you want to share with the world? And again, that might not be doing any sort of therapy or facilitation. Your skill might be in graphic design, and you want to work in the psychedelic sector and create really cool visual art for companies, or, social media, stuff like that. 98 of the respondents indicated that making a lot of money is not their primary motivation to enter into the field. And I think that always just points towards how impactful psychedelics have been for a lot of folks. And for a lot of people, it feels like a calling, right? They just want to get involved and help spread the message and, share this work with others in so many different ways, whether that's maybe going out and being educators, advocates, etc. I think for a lot of folks, this is kind of a calling that as a career. And then 63% acknowledge potential personal professional risks of arrest, social, family, and license implications, but undeterred and willing to do the work in the field regardless. And it's always a really important reminder that we are still dealing in the psychedelic world with federally scheduled substances, and there is risk here involved, depending on what you're doing, right? So a lot of the folks that are doing underground work are probably at some of the highest risk, along with people that are in other things where you're medicine touching, as we like to say. Always like to remind people, might feel like we're a bit in a bubble for those that have been involved in psychedelics for a while. And sometimes it feels like maybe that risk isn't there, but always really like to remind people that, we still are continuing to deal with federally scheduled substances in this field. So what is Vital? Vital is our 12-month course program, really on psychedelic harm reduction integration. And so it's broken up into 5 core modules. There's 4 live ones and 2 pre-recorded modules that you can take. And each module reflects on one of the 5 elements, and each of the modules have their own syllabi and resource and quizzes. There's also an experiential elective part of the program. So students are asked to find an experience that really resonates with them. So that could be some sort of ceremonial retreat, engaging in their own ketamine therapy, going to a breathwork retreat, meditation retreat, or maybe it's harm reduction at a place like Zendo at Burning Man or another festival. But we really believe having your own experience is really important part of this work. We're really focused on that inner work. So that's under the grow part, that commitment to self-awareness and inner work. And then also really focus on that peer-based learning and process-oriented learning. So coming together in small groups, homerooms throughout the year to really learn from each other and really dive into the topics. And yeah, I think that's the most special part of the program is the homerooms throughout the year and the relationships that you really form. And then we also have some specialization pathways and electives so you can deepen an area of interest of yours. And then we also have our membership and our online community that's hosted on a platform called Circle. And then we also have some courses and electives based on your psychedelic career business. So I know a lot of people are interested in maybe how to get started in any sort of business career stuff. So offering that opportunity to dig into that as well. And then also some meetups at conferences, live events around the world. So me and Johanna, our last little event was, I think, in Amsterdam. We hosted a little breathwork session and then a dinner that was in conjunction with the ICPR conference over there. Or I guess that was in Haarlem, outside of Amsterdam. And then, yeah, whenever we are at events, conferences, we always try to host meetup for the Vital community so that they can get involved. Johanna, anything that you wanted to add here?
Yeah, I guess just to reiterate what we really want to reinforce is the community aspect, and big part of your student experience, even though it obviously most of it happens online, is to really try and be active and to seek out some of the other folks who may be in your area, who might be interested in the same thing, and starting your own peer groups and reaching out and just introducing yourself and just saying, hey, I want to speak with you about this or that because you seem to have experience in that. So I feel like a lot of our students who have been very active in wanting to form connections have really being the ones who have gained most out of the program, and also then subsequently end up meeting in real life and forming some really awesome friendships.
Awesome. So who's Vital for? And as we were starting to form Vital and launch it, we really thought about how we really come from this harm reduction perspective, and realizing that people are doing this work, regardless. They might be in places where psychedelics have been decriminalized. So those small decriminalized nature movements that have been happening in cities and small towns. There's people that, again, going back to the emerging workforce, people that actually maybe don't want to do the integration work or the therapy work, but they want to just get involved and get a strong foundation for psychedelics. And a lot of the programs out there are really focused towards clinical practitioners. And so we saw a need to really kind of open this up. And so while we focus a lot on the harm reduction integration perspectives, that can be, for clinicians, health care practitioners, wellness professionals, et cetera. It's also really for folks that are, again, really wanting to create a strong foundation in psychedelics so that they can move it forward in their own life, however they're planning on using that. So whether you're an educator, you're an advocate, you want to, again, kind of create a strong foundation as you're looking for jobs in the psychedelic space. Again, maybe you're an assistant at a ketamine clinic or, at a retreat center. So we really wanted to open this up to other folks just outside of the clinical population, so we can get more people out there in the world that are more educated, more literate, and have those psychedelic competencies. As something I like to say within Vital, I feel like one of the goals is to help to create a cultural safety net for psychedelics and other exceptional experiences. So the more people out there that can be a support in your community, I think is really important, and however you're showing up. So we are open to folks outside of the health and mental health professions. And so Vital is around 150 hours of teaching experience and practice. We really try to weave in the experiential with the academic, the clinical and the transpersonal, the medical and the shamanic, the inner focus and the structural, and the theoretical and the practical, and then also your personal and professional transformation. So the course outline, we meet every week. We do have some breaks around the holidays, but it's pretty weekly besides those breaks. And we usually meet on Tuesdays for a 2-hour webinar where a special guest comes in and we really focus on a particular topic, and they usually do about an hour presentation. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but we really try to save time for the more interactive part of class, and so that's a live Q&A. And so we do this more in a Zoom meeting. So right now we're kind of like in this webinar format where you only get to see us, but during these lectures, everybody's on screen, and you get to interact with the presenter that's there, ask questions, etc. And that's usually from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then throughout the week, you'll break off into a 90-minute breakout kind of homeroom, or what we call our study groups. And that's really interactive. And that's facilitated by 2 instructors led by our core faculty. And those are offered at various times and days to help fit your schedule. And that's really I feel like where a lot of the learning takes place. We're having our peer interactions. It's a place where we can do breakout groups, to do role plays, focus discussions, etc. We also have some electives during our elective cycle. And that's another way to just focus more on specific topics. And then for this recent cohort 4, we started a specialization pathway. And those are regenerative business and leadership, depth and Jungian perspectives, somatics and trauma, spiritual emergence, and microdosing. And the specialization pathways comes with a self-study curriculum. So if you want to do a specialization, it's optional. But if you want to really dig in, it comes with a self-study curriculum. So videos, podcasts, there's some required reading, and then an opportunity to meet up with that group throughout the year to discuss the topics. And then you'll focus in on that during the elective cycle. You'll pick the elective that is aligned with that specialization pathway. Johanna, do you want to share anything else about any of this?
Yeah, so I don't know, are we going to talk about the additional pieces here as well, or do you have a separate slide for them?
I think I have a separate slide for that, actually.
Okay, all right then.
Yeah.
So
Maybe not. I forget.
maybe in addition to the specialization pathways, a lot of students have been self-organizing groups to learn about the specific topics on their own. So those groups are typically peer-led. Sometimes me and Kyle might chime in, but they're also another awesome way to meet people and to go deeper into the topic of your study.
Awesome. All right. And then part of the program too, the requirements is that require a foundational paper. So when you enter into the program, this paper is really a way to start to set your intentions, what you're hoping to get out of the program, why you want to enter into the program. And then if you did focus on a specialization, also focusing on that specialization topic. And then we have a final paper and presentation. And so at the end of the program, you'll come up with a project and a paper and present that. And we usually talk about it from like two different perspectives. It could be something that's a little bit more personal. So, say if you had a psychedelic experience or you just had a really profound experience in your life that you're looking to integrate, you can focus it more on that personal. A lot of people take more of this professional avenue where they're creating business plans, they're redoing websites, they're creating programs and curriculums. And that's the way they really want to integrate it. So the final project is really focused on integration. What does integration mean to you, and how are you moving this experience forward in your life? Some people have also came up with like different frameworks and theories that they want to use in their practice. So that's always my favorite part of the program, is watching people, go throughout the program, maybe starting with an idea, and then by the end of the program, that has completely changed and transformed. And watching the students really integrate that and move it forward, it's really special. We also have the experiential elective. We also just chatted about that a little bit, but finding your own experience and then writing a paper about it. So, what was it like? Were there things that you would have done differently? Things that you've learned in the program, and having some observation around that experience. We also have some touch points throughout the program. So we have our biweekly open office hours. So students can drop in, either discuss just current topics, or if you need any additional support, logistical support, stuff like that. We offer a touch point for these open offices. We also have our Monday community webinars. And so that's lifetime access, open to all of our Vital students. So if you enroll in the program, you'll also get access to those webinars. And these webinars can cover more nuanced, niche topics. And most of the webinars are actually presented by alumni. So students come back, they want to share their work, things that they've been working on. And it's really special to have people come back and present what they've been up to, what they're learning, and to be able to present it to the Vital community. And then we also have our Vital Elements group, and that's also open to all of the Vital students and alumni. This is a bi-weekly group, and we have different topics that we explore. So we might have some breakout rooms. Last week, I did a Vital Elements group on near-death experiences and the psychedelic experience. The one coming up next week, I think, is on breathwork. So just an opportunity to talk about that a little bit more in community. So we're really trying to create these spaces for the community to come together, share ideas, share thoughts, stuff like that. And then, as I mentioned before, we have our online community where we can break that off into multiple little spaces. So that's spaces just for your cohort, your study group, and then we have like another section for the general PT audience. But it's a really nice way to just stay connected, share ideas, and interact with folks. And Johanna, if you wanted to add anything else here.
I think you pretty much covered it all. Maybe just an additional piece to say that we typically release the topics for the Vital Elements groups ahead of time as well. So you maybe sort of a few months ahead of time. So you have access to see which groups you would find interesting and might want to join. But a lot of students join all of them just because, well, it's always a fruitful and interesting discussion.
Yeah. So here's a little breakdown of the curriculum. Sometimes these titles change. Sometimes we move things around. It's really dependent on, presenter availability. We're always trying to make changes to the program, but this gives you a general idea of how things are broken up. So we have our Earth module. This is really focused on preparation, harm reduction, evaluation, assessment. So some of those classes might include harm reduction, risk reduction practices. psychedelic psychopharmacology, preparation, assessment, in clinical intake, and then we have the water element, and that correlates to navigating the depths, navigating the psychedelic experience. So again, we'll talk about set and setting, pillars of psychedelic therapy, trauma-informed space holding, and transpersonal considerations, working with challenging experiences, the ethics of space holding, music, boundaries, scope of practice, etc. And then we have the ether, that's space in between that we're trying to integrate. So that's really focused on psychedelic integration. So we talk about treatment planning, meaning making. We also talk about somatic and breathwork practices for integration. We've had classes on internal family systems, working with challenging experiences, post-psychedelic experience, and that could include the spiritual emergencies, existential crisis, community intersectionality, accessibility, psychedelic chaplaincy. And then we have our inner work module. And I think this module, we had one on working with archetypes, breath work, working with dreams, and can't remember the other one. Oh, soul making. We had one on soul making. So using a depth-oriented psychology lens on, how do we start to work with our inner process? And Johanna, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else here.
I think I didn't really see. We also have classes on like intersectionality and cultural care, which we didn't put in here, but that's also something that's really important for us. So, and in the past, we've also had lectures on sort of the history of psychedelics and the early years by Bill Richard. So just trying to give you kind of a foundational view also of what the field has looked like in the past, as well as, well, I see you've got the indigenous traditions and wisdom there. That's also something that we're constantly highlighting and looking for different speakers and educators who are open to talking about the role of sort of indigenous practices and those sort of healing modalities and how they can be applied to, I guess, partially to the contemporary life.
Yep. And then on this slide, this kind of goes over some of our pre-recorded material. So we have some pre-recorded material that you can take at your own pace throughout the year as well. And then a list of the electives that we have. So we have Jungian approaches to psychedelics, the regenerative business and leadership, ecodelia, so psychedelics, animism, and ecology, neuroscience, psychedelics and end of life, microdosing, somatics and psychedelics, and spiritual emergence. And then we have some self-study electives. We have a ketamine elective, metaphysics and psychedelics, and then a class on working with the shadow. And again, some of these also align with the specialization tracks. So completion requirements. We really want people to attend the weekly study group. So we have an attendance policy of 80% for those study groups. For the weekly lectures that happen on Tuesdays at 2 p.m., sometimes, we have a pretty global audience. People are all over the world, different time zones. So if you do happen to miss those are recorded and then uploaded to our learning management system, and you can watch the replays there. Complete 2 electives, complete an experiential elective and paper, also the foundational essay and final project, and then you'll present that final project at the end of the course. And we went over the final project a little bit, but it's really focused on integration and how you intend to move this forward in your life. And so again, that could be personally or a little bit more professionally oriented. And so some of the core team here, myself and Johanna, we already did our introductions, so won't go over that again. We also have Diego and Mika and our co-founder, Joe. If you want to learn more about the presenters and teachers, you can go to vitalpsychedelictraining.com. We have a little section there that says educators, and you can learn more. Sometimes that changes a whole bunch. Again, it really depends on schedules, availability. And so that list on our website is really based on past presenters, but we really try to keep some of the same presenters here. But again, yeah, schedules change, things happen, life happens, and we bring on new instructors every once in a while. So here's a testimonial from Taz, who is a psychiatrist, and Taz was part of our cohort 1. So maybe I'll just leave this here. You can read this at your own time. I'll give you a minute to read it. All right, so hopefully that gave you enough time to dig in. We'll go forward. Yeah, just some stuff, some logistics about the program. So admission is 10,500. We also have a mentorship group if people want to dig in a little bit more. And so that includes some monthly meetups, individual calls, and an opportunity to really get more kind of one-on-one attention and a smaller group focused on some of your personal goals. We use our payment system through our learning management system, and that allows us to offer some payment plans through lenders like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay. And yeah, just to note that taxes isn't included on these listings. That really changes depending where you are. And yeah, so that could include if you're in the EU, the VAT tax, and etc. And some deadlines. So if you are interested, we have our early bird, and that's coming up pretty soon. I guess that will be next week on February 7th. So if you apply early, you can get $2,000 off. You'll also get enrollment in the Vital Book Club. So this is a book club that we start before Vital starts. And this is an opportunity to really just dig in with a small group of students to discuss material before we get going. And I love it. Johanna, you really run that book club. Do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, so the book club is still open for folks who are registering either this week or at the start of next week. But it's an exclusive offer for you to join in to speak about specific literature with peers that helps you as a preparatory material for Vital. So we cover topics like transpersonal psychology, depth psychological perspectives, spirituality, and we're reading more than one book. So I think there will be lots of interesting material for you. But we've been running the book club already for a few weeks. So if you want to join in, you better submit your application soon.
Awesome. And then for the first 20 students that sign up early, also get access to our Navigating Psychedelics Essentials on Psychedelic Therapy and Integration course. And that starts on Tuesday, actually February 18th instead of the 17th here on this slide. And that will start at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And so that's a 9-week course. So you'll also get a nice kind of foundational course leading up to Vital, also with the book club too. So getting a lot of touch points before the program starts in May. And then you'll also get access to our Vital webinar series that happen on Mondays, and the Elements group. So if you want to really dig in and start your journey, we have a lot of touch points before the actual course starts off. And the program will kick off on May 6th with a welcome and orientation. And that will be recorded. So if you happen to miss that, you'll be able to rewatch that. And then Tuesday, we start off with our introductory lecture and Q&A. And so steps to getting started on this process is submitting your application online. The Vital team will review it, and then we'll follow up in an email to conduct an interview. And if the interview is, you're a good candidate, you'll receive an acceptance letter. And then that is guaranteed for 2 weeks. If it isn't accepted, we pass it on to the next person on the list. And then you need to secure your enrollment by starting a payment plan or paying in full, whatever makes sense for you. And again, if participants, applicants don't make it, add to the wait list and then be invited as spots open up. So yeah, we'll open it up to any questions if anybody has anything. So you can feel free to drop that if you're watching on Instagram or YouTube in the comments section, and we can answer some questions.
Thanks for that presentation, Kyle.
Yeah.
So while we wait for some more questions, I have really been reflecting on this journey with Vital and the kind of transformations and impact that it's had in a lot of people's lives. And I think it was hard to see from the get-go what this course was going to be and what its meaning was really going to be for individuals. But yeah, it's been really truly remarkable to see that how much value people have gotten, not just professionally, but really personally. So in that, I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what has been for you what has been the best part about Vital so far, in the very broad sense?
I mean, there's so many wonderful aspects of the program, but for me, it's really the community. I think that's been one of the most transformative parts about this program is the community of people that have come together, that have made connections. It's been really beautiful watching students come together and collaborate on projects or businesses after the program, offering their own programs. Maybe some have gone on to offer some retreats. And yeah, just, I feel like I mentioned this in another live stream. What was it? Maybe I was talking with Diego the other day about transpersonal psychology. But I think about my time when I was doing my undergrad in transpersonal psychology at this little school called Burlington College. And for me, I really needed a place to explore my experiences on an intellectual level, but also an experiential level. And having a container to explore together with peers that are interested in the same thing and having similar experiences really helped with my integration process. And, sometimes doing this journey and being involved in this space can sometimes feel really isolating, really alone. I think everybody that is getting involved is on the frontiers, right? Because we're still so early. Like sometimes it feels like maybe the ship has left because, psychedelics are popping up all over, media and, I'm in a bubble, right? You are too, and maybe some of you are watching. It feels like, oh man, it's here. But I got to remind people, like, even though it feels like it's here, it's also not here. And we are just at the beginning. So being able to come together and find those others to explore together, to learn together, I think has been one of the most valuable things. And I think it is really special. And I, again, just think about like the time that I spent at Burlington College and the community that formed around that. The mix of experiential learning along with like more academic learning, that fusion was just really beautiful, and it really provided a container to go deep. And I don't know where I'd be without that. And that is something that I wanted to really kind of bring forward with Vital and almost keep that ethos of my undergrad alive in the program. And I think we've done a pretty good job with that. But I don't know. I'm curious to hear what's your favorite part of the program too, Johanna?
Yeah, I would say that the same, to be honest. And I think organizations like PT are really fostering that important sense of community, which is absolutely essential for us to co-create this new future that we also desperately want to live in. I mean, we have to form these connections, and we have to build trust with people before we can enter into professional connections with them. And there's so many beautiful professional organizations that have launched from Vital. Retreat centers, integration practices, ketamine clinics, all sorts of networking organizations and media. It's like a really infinite amount of just beautiful co-creations that have been largely inspired by, but also enabled by the support of other people. So I think we all just need a little bit of that encouragement. We need some other people who we feel like are in our team and who help us to move towards our own goals. And psychedelics are confusing. They're confusing as hell, especially for somebody who is coming into this space. And there's just, it's a lot that you're going through when you are undergoing those shifts within yourself and wanting to change things about your life and seeking for redirection, wanting to move into maybe a completely separate career, maybe just wanting to change some other things about your life. And sometimes those big changes are not even necessary. Sometimes it's really about the smallest of things, to implement a mindfulness practice or meditation practice, just approach your own life in a little bit of a different way. But I think we all need spaces to share about those kinds of shifts that we're undergoing. And I think Vital really enables that. It enables people to be seen in a very authentic and beautiful way. And I think that's the transformational aspect of it, to be honest. And the education is a bonus.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree with everything that you've said there. Really quick, I'll just I put in the chats here about a free intro course that we just released, and oh, where is it? Okay, I got it here. So if you're thinking, hey, like I'm really interested in Vital, this sounds really awesome, but I also want to learn more. We just relaunched a free intro course. So this is an introduction to Vital. And so this is an on-demand course, and it includes some pre-recorded community webinars. So those Monday webinars that we were talking about, you can get a feel for that. Maybe some of what are people presenting about? We have podcasts, our Vital Psychedelic Conversation podcast there. We have some class samples, so you can get an idea of like what some of those topics are in the class, how the class is broken up. We have some trailers, testimonials, and more. And so this is a really great way to just kind of dig in and get to know Vital a little bit more. So we'll go over the program overview. There's an application that's embedded in it. And I mentioned all the other things here. So you can check this out. I dropped it in the chat. I'll drop it again. But if you just go to Vital Psychedelic Training, and there's a little tab up top here. It says Intro to Vital, and then you can sign up. Definitely a really awesome way to just learn more about Vital and kind of get a feel for it to see if the program is right for you. And if the program, if you're not really to take a deep dive into Vital, it is a pretty long commitment. We also have that 9-week course that we mentioned. And so that's called Navigating Psychedelics, Essentials of Psychedelic Therapy and Integration. So, maybe start off with the intro course. And then if you are thinking, I really kind of want to dive into this, but not ready for the full year commitment, we also have, the Navigating Psychedelics, Essentials for Psychedelic Therapies, and integration. And I'll drop that in the chat as well there for those that might be interested in a shorter course. So that's 9 weeks, much more digestible than the full program. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments section. I think we get comments here from YouTube. I think Twitter maybe. We use a streaming platform to go across platforms to make it a little bit easier. But feel free to drop a comment in there, and happy to answer any questions. Johanna, what's one thing that you've really learned throughout your time with Vital 2? Curious.
So many things. Oh my God. Yeah. I feel like there's a
Big
professional
question.
answer, and
No.
then there's an answer that came up, which is like, the first thing that I thought about is that people are complex creatures, but I don't think that's the answer that you were looking for. So let me just think about something else. Yeah, I think that there's just, I think I have this sort of double view on therapy and sort of inner work as well, that it is a privilege to be able to do it undeniably. And also I think sometimes it's been a little bit of a double-edged sword in the Western world too. I mean, we both like James Hillman. We both like the way in which he sort of talks about that all sorts of inner reflection should always be paired with some kind of political or outer action. And I think in that sense, it sometimes feels like, well, especially for me, because I'm really interested in these things like dreams and depth psychology, etc., that, how can I justify this? And I was actually listening to a lecture about lucid dreaming, and the speaker was saying the same thing, was just like, how can we justify this, doing all of this inner work, when she said, the feels like the world is on fire. And I think I've found this sort of peace around this, and kind of a trust in that we actually really do need to do the individual work. And as much, it sometimes feels like, well, why am I doing all of this work on myself? Like, why is it so necessary for me to do all of this reflection and self-awareness practice and meditation and, my God, ceremony and psychedelic journeys and all that? And I think it all should be done in moderation, and also that it's not a means to an end by any means. But I really think that it's extremely important in this day and age for us to engage with these practices. And also it's extremely important to engage in dialogue, because that's going to help us with critical thinking. So I would say those are maybe the two primary overarching themes. But yeah, I mean, the amount of things that I've learned from Vital is infinite. I keep being the student who never leaves, and is still learning.
I feel the same way, studying psychedelics probably since like 2007, and then being able to engage in this program over the past 3 years. And on top of podcasting, like, I'm still learning so much every day, and learning actually so much from the students. I think that's also really amazing. Just
Big time.
the new ideas that people are bringing in, questions that maybe I haven't asked myself before, because there is something about like that beginner's mind that people bring, versus when you're so seeped in something, it's hard to kind of like get yourself out of it and think about something a little bit differently. So I'm just always learning a ton. I feel like I'm just an ongoing student here as well. Hey, Hannah, hope pronouncing that correct. Thanks for joining us. And then there was also a question here on Instagram. What specific medicine compounds does your program cover or focus on? So we're pretty substance agnostic. We try to cover everything to give everybody a really kind of well-rounded foundation of what medicines are out there, how people are using them. And then again, we really focus on the harm reduction aspect and then the integration aspect of the program. And integration and the inner work is a really big focus of our program. You know, I think, Johanna, you were pointing to, it's like, how many times do we need to keep going back to these medicines? And I think something that we really want to emphasize throughout the program is like, how do we come back and do the work in the world, and use those insights, but not having to keep going back to those medicines. So yeah, we have a very strong focus on the integration aspect, and really talking about all the nuance, you know, the nuance of space holding, the nuance of preparation, the nuances of integration, talking about, yeah, like these more complex topics that maybe other programs don't always touch on, around that topic of spiritual emergence, right? How do we support somebody that's going through a spiritual emergence, a really deep existential crisis? I always like that term, like experiencing ontological shock, being like, whoa, what is my reality now that I just had this really profound psychedelic experience? And so, again, I always like to say in Vital, I feel like one of the goals is to help to create that cultural safety net. As people are having these experiences, what type of communities and services are we bringing back to the world to support people? Because we're going to need that. I always think about my psychedelic experiences, and you know, I did a lot of journeying and felt like I kept battling up against like a wall with the same message. And I feel like it didn't really kind of click until, you know, I found community to do this work in, to integrate, to really focus on the integration work instead of trying to constantly go back, trying to seek the answers. You know, how do we come back to this this world and really focus on that integration process? So yeah, we're pretty substance agnostic. We cover everything, and just, again, really trying to give people a foundation of like what people are doing out there in the world, and how can we, yeah, be better informed around that. So yeah, thank you for that question. And I know that we're maybe coming up on some time. So again, yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop that in there. For those that have stuck around for the whole webinar and hanging out, also just wanted to extend an offer to you guys. So if you apply today, you'll get a waived application fee, and I'll drop this in the chat too, Vital Q&A special. So that should waive the application fee. And then you'll also receive another $500 discount on top of the early bird. So yeah, for sticking around, hanging out with us, you can go back and, yeah, use this coupon code, Vital Q&A special. And again, I'll drop that in the chat there for anybody that wants to use that to submit an application without the application fee.
Thanks for your comment, Ahmed, all the way from Sinai Desert. Appreciate you sticking around until the end.
Thanks for being here.
And yeah, hope to read some of your applications and maybe see some of you in the program.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for spending time with us today, folks, hanging out with us, listening. Hope everybody has a great day. Thank you, Johanna. Really appreciate it. And again, if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to reach out, vital@psychedelictoday.com. And yeah, hope to see some folks applying. And yeah, you can use that code for a waived application fee. That was Vital Q&A special, and I dropped that in the chat there. So yeah. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.